Good evening and welcome to our YCYW CUGO webinar.
大家晚上好，欢迎大家收看我们YCYW CUGO 的系列讲座。
We're so glad you're with us here tonight. My name is John Leo. I'm the Director of Career and University Guidance and Student Development. I'm really happy to be here with my colleague Coco Ko.
非常开心又和大家在晚上见面了。然后我是 Coco，在浦西耀中外籍人子女学校担任职业与升学指导顾问。
So tonight we have the great opportunity to learn much more about the university systems within Singapore, but especially in National University of Singapore, NUS.
今天晚上的话，我们主要是想带领大家一起来探索新加坡大学的一些申请的一些注意事项。那么主要的话，我们今天是请来了新加坡国立大学的招生官。
So in a moment, you have a chance to hear from Professor Go himself about the unique opportunities at NUS and also, how to help yourself apply to that university.
那么接下来的访谈中呢，就是我们会收看到新加坡国立大学的国教授带来的给大家带来的分享。
As always, if you have any further questions, please, if you're joining us on Palavi, put it in the chat box, or if you're joining us on WeChat, put it on comments, and we will answer after the recording of the webinar.
和以往一样，如果大家在收看的过程当中有任何的疑问，那么大家可以在 WeChat 和 Polivi 的平台的 chat 那个就是对话框里面发一下大家的问题。那么我们在这个访谈结束之后呢，会收集问题，并且为大家去解答。
So great. Let's now listen to Professor Go about sharing about the amazing opportunities at NUS.
那请大家收看。
Hi, everyone. Welcome to our YCYW CUGO webinar series. My name is John Leo. I'm the Director of University and Career Counseling and Student Development at our YCYW schools. We are really blessed and fortunate today to have the Dean of Undergraduate Admissions and a professor of mathematics at NUS in Singapore, Professor Go, who is going to be coming and sharing about the incredible university that is NUS, and then, of course, answer all the questions that you have shared with us so that we can give you the best guidance for you to think about your next journey, and if that journey should be in NUS. Without any further ado, Professor Go, would you like to introduce a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Thanks very much, John, for this kind invitation. It is really a great pleasure to be able to speak to all of you here today. As John mentioned, I'm a professor of mathematics. I'm also the Dean of Admissions of the university. And I really look forward to this session that I can interact with you and explain to you all the learning opportunities, development opportunities, and the degree programs that we offer at the National University of Singapore.
Great. We're so excited. So Professor, let's just get right into the questions.
Sure.
Our first question is surrounded around the kind of the application process. So our students and parents ask, we know that NUS does a holistic assessment of applicants. And because our schools have an IB curriculum or Cambridge A-level curriculum, and now we're also offering the DSC, can you share a little bit about just how, what are the prerequisites if students are thinking about applying to NUS from these curricula, and, kind of maybe some guidance about the threshold and what NUS is looking for from these schools or these students coming from our curriculums?
Okay, yeah, sure. I will be very happy to do that. Now, firstly, I just want to emphasize and actually highlight that, in fact, in terms of admission, we are actually recognizing more than 30 different high school qualifications for admission, a wide range of qualifications. And these more than 30 different high school qualifications includes IB, Cambridge A-levels, and Hong Kong DSE. And there are many, many others. And the whole idea here is that when you apply for admission, every student will have 8 choices for the single degree program, followed by another 8 choices for multidisciplinary degree program. For the 8 choices of the single degree programs, students will rank them based on their preference. And for each of these choices that we offered, and in fact, we offer a wide range. We offered more than 60 different undergraduate majors, that degree programs that for our students. And each one of them, they have their own subject prerequisite. And a question that students may ask is that, how about the subject prerequisite for IB, for Cambridge A-levels, Hong Kong DSE? How do we actually know which are the ones that we need? And in fact, each of the qualifications, we have indicated clearly what kind of subject prerequisite. You applied from IB, then it is like, for example, certain programs, HL mathematics, and things like that, MAA, for example. And then for example, Cambridge A-levels, then we say year 12 or higher mathematics. So it will be stated precisely. And the nice part here is that regardless of which application, which qualifications a student is presenting, at the end of the day, the prerequisites are comparable, so that everybody came in with the similar background as before. And then another question here is that, does it matter which qualifications that the student present? Is it easier to get in by one type of qualification or another? Now, we do internal benchmarking. We make sure that for the different high school qualifications that we have been offering, regardless of the high school qualification, we make sure that admitted student should be able to perform comparably even NUS. I think that is the broad principle. Then maybe let me go to the next part of what John was asking. How about the process about this holistic assessment? Now, for the holistic assessment process, we essentially work with what I call a funnel kind of admission process. We look at the academic grades of the respective qualification. We use that as the first cut. If the grades are very outstanding, that we are able to make an offer to the student, we'll make an offer to the student based on the academic grades. And then what happened is that it is very competitive to get into the university. So we need to actually, we do realize that there are still a lot of very good students that we're not able to offer yet. So this is where we look beyond grades and we look at students that we have very good grades, but we're not able to offer yet. And this is where we assess the student based on the aptitude-based admission, where we look beyond grades and we look at the student aptitude, passion, and relevant attributes. There are questions on the application form that talks about this aptitude-based admission. There are 5 short response questions, very targeted on specifically what we are looking for. Answers are typically 4 or 5 sentences. We're not looking for fancy essay, but we want an authentic reflection of the students' aptitude, passion, and relevant attributes. We also have up to 4 achievements that students can upload and at the same time write a paragraph about this so that we can actually look at a holistic picture about who the student is and what are the strengths of the student to make sure that we get the best fit for admission.
Great. That is, thank you so much for that. It's quite clear and helpful for our students to kind of understand, one, academically how to prepare, but also have a starting and understanding of holistically what NUS is looking for, because that word holistic is different from institution to institution.
Exactly.
Exactly, right? So maybe a little bit of a follow-up, because I know
Sure.
About students can apply when they're applying to NUS. They usually apply with their predicted grades from our schools, and then also NUS usually I believe gives a conditional offer to our students. So my question is, can you talk a little bit about predicted versus final grades, or for some of our students, let's say, are going to national service, they apply with their final grades? Can you talk a little bit about how that works? Like, how does conditional offers work? And then, how, if students don't meet those conditions, is there flexibility with that, or is it those conditions kind of a hard condition? I know that I asked a multiple layered question, but I hope it's clear.
Yeah, I think the first thing that, John, that you highlighted about conditional offers, that there is a possibility that students may not meet the condition and what to do. So because of this, and because of the high level of competition for the places in NUS, we do not give conditional offers. And in fact, the offers that we give are actually firm offers. And so that we avoid this situation that, especially for international students, if they come all the way to Singapore and then after they came in and then when the final results come out and then we say that, oh, you don't meet the final or the conditions and therefore we have to, then the students may not be able to continue their studies. Now, we want to avoid that situation because after all, it's very, very competitive to get into the university. So in general, we only use final results to make admission decision. Now, predicted results, I know that they do give an indication of the student's ability. But the problem about predicted results is that it varies from school to school, or even vary from probably even country to country, because different schools, they have different expectations. So as a result, we actually do not use the predicted result. We actually use the final results. And so to avoid that situation. But coming to the 3 qualifications that YCYW are offering, maybe I can elaborate a little bit more. Now, our academy year actually begins in August. Now, this is a uniquely Singapore situation. I know that in the US university, academy year begins in September, and then in the UK, they begin in October. But for NUS, we actually begin our academic year in the first week of August. Now, with that, then there are certain issues and there are certain things that we need to do. Like, for example, now for IB, I think some students are taking the May IB exams. Result will come out in around the first week or first to second week, about the first week of July. So what happens is that when the student got the result, our team will work very, very hard to process them and make an admission decision. Admission offer typically will come out about the middle of July. And I'm happy to say that, our immigrations and our other officers are all very efficient, that even if you get the offer in the middle of July, you will still be able to sit nicely inside the classroom when the semester begins. No issue about that. And then the other thing, Hong Kong DSE. Now, Hong Kong DSE, the results come out much later, about 3rd week of July. Now, that is one of the last qualifications that we can consider, but we will always, have certain places allocated for deserving students also. We will do our planning properly so that deserving students with Hong Kong DSE, that we can still offer accordingly. Yes, end of July or 3rd week of July is rather late, but we work very hard. And typically, there are still students with Hong Kong DSE qualification that can get into the university when the classes begin in August. So these 2 Julys, we're looking at July offers. But of course, if there are students who have taken IB and Hong Kong DSE in earlier years, they already have the final results, then certainly offers can go out earlier. Now, the tricky part is Cambridge A-Level. Cambridge A-Level, there are some students who are taking it in the year of matriculation with the result come out in August. And that is a problem because the results will only come out after our semester has begun. So unfortunately for this group, we will not be able to use your A-Level results for admission to the university. Now, 2 things that can happen. Some students, they will take a gap year, and then they apply in the following year. A so-called gap year. Okay, it's not a full gap year because we start in August. So then they apply in the following year. On the other hand, but there may be students who actually are very well prepared, that they actually have standardized tests. You can use standardized tests to apply in place of Cambridge A-Level. Then the requirement is only that you need to make sure that by August, you complete your high school, you complete your A-Level cert. So to a certain extent, this is like some kind of, conditional offer, because the bar is different. You just need to be able to complete your high school qualifications. And but you will have a chance to use standardized tests. If they are outstanding enough, it's possible for you to be admitted. And then let me ask one more, let me give you an extra elaboration, John. That is, how about the standardized tests? How do we assess them? How do you define standardized tests? There are three options. Any one of the three, we recognize. Option number one, the student can present at least 5 acceptable AP courses. To be competitive, mostly grade 5. AP Calculus BC needs to be one of them. And the others, you can look at our list of acceptable AP courses. Option number 2, ACT with writing, plus at least 3 acceptable AP courses, where again, Calculus BC would be one of the 3. The third option, SAT plus at least 3 acceptable AP courses. So similar comments about what are acceptable and whether you need Calculus BC. So I hope that this actually gives a overview about how we deal with a situation like this.
No, that's great. That's great. And it's great to hear that, as someone that had lived in Singapore before, gone through the visa process in Singapore, I can attest to, yes, the speed and the quickness of the getting a visa to come to Singapore. For me, that was for work, but I'm sure for students, that would be the same. No, that's very, very helpful, Professor Gold, to just give our students all the different options and all that they can do. And then just in letting our students know, like, they're, again, using IB, HKDSC, or A levels, there are different pathways to get to NUS. And then there are also these other options, that can work as well. You were talking a little bit about the competitive programs, and NUS in itself is, an elite school and selective, but we also know that there's certain courses within NUS that are even more selective, right? So, for example, medicine or engineering or computer science. And can you maybe talk a little bit about? I know you said that they can go online and look at the requirements, of course. But can you talk since you're here now, if you can talk a little bit about maybe for some of those courses, what are the general courses in IB, DSC, or A level that majors may be looking for, and maybe to explain to students why that's important, right? Like if it's math AA, because I think that would be helpful for students to understand the rationale as well as why universities will put a focus on these courses.
Thank you, John. I think you are spot on. Prerequisites happen for a reason. There is a reason for having all these prerequisites. Now, let me give you some examples. Like, for example, like I said earlier on, different programs have different subject prerequisites. So let's say computing, engineering. Now, if you think about what are the background that you need for computing and engineering, I guess my discipline, mathematics, will play a big role, right? I mean, computing and engineering, they build their foundation on mathematics. So in terms of subject prerequisite, like let's say you are presenting Cambridge A-level or you're presenting Hong Kong DSE, then you will need year 12 pass in mathematics. Then if you are presenting IB, then it's MAA, HL. So this is the kind of combinations that you will actually need mathematics. Now for engineering, if you do have physics, it's good, but if you don't have it, it's not an issue because we do offer bridging courses. So in terms of subject prerequisite, what we do is that we have a common denominator so that students can get started. Because you see, the way that NUS function is that we are actually drawing the foundations of the students, and then we build it right from day one. So we need certain level of mathematics. But let's say you have mathematics, but you do not have physics, and you want to do engineering. And some of the majors in engineering may need physics to complement it, but not an issue because for high school level mathematics, physics, chemistry, and biology, we do offer bridging courses. That means the standard is like high school. We get you up to speed, then off you go. Mm-hmm. So that is possible. And taking those bridging courses, if you have not taken before in your high school, that can still be counted as one of the courses you take for your graduation requirement in the university because it's a brand new learning experience for the student. So that is something that, then of course, there are other things that just now I think you mentioned about medicine. Then what do you need then? Now, medicine. Now, many students thought that medicine, you will need biology. In fact, medicine, the most important thing they need is actually chemistry. So the subject prerequisite, because you see, the drugs, all these, they are chemical components there. So that's why you need chemistry. So for like medicine, you will need high school, year 12 or higher level in chemistry, and one of the two, another science subject, either physics or biology. So you can see that all these different combinations of subject prerequisite, actually it depends on that there is a reason for why they are there, because we want to make sure that the student gets started from the day they go, you know. And maybe let me just, since we are interested in the 3 diplomas that the qualifications that YCYW are offering, so maybe let me just highlight a little bit more here. For IB students, we're looking at the IB diploma. We do not consider IB certificate. So I think that one, I think YCYW, your students are all doing IB diploma. Yes. Then for Cambridge A-levels, we typically require 4 advanced level subjects. We do not use AS level subjects for admission consideration, and to be competitive, you know, most of these advanced level subjects should have A star. Then for Hong Kong DSE, we look at 5 subjects, 3 core plus 2 electives. And I think, you know, Hong Kong DSE, there's a M1, M2 for the mathematics curriculum. That one, we do not take them into consideration. So we focus mainly on 3 core plus 2 electives.
Oh. Interesting. Very interesting, actually. And that's actually a very unique model, especially with the math, which is great because I think that's actually helpful for our students. Well, thank you for talking about the academic requirements. And you have mentioned in the application also the opportunity for students, right, to talk about the activities that they do outside of school and write a little bit about what they do, a summary of it, and to show their passion. So my next question is a little bit about the extracurriculars. So if students are interested in US, what guidance would you give them as far as extracurricular activities should they pursue that will resonate within US?
Okay, now this is a very challenging question. Now, I think many students actually ask us about this question. How should they, look into the extracurricular activities so that it will actually give them a leg up in admission application? Now, the way I look at it is that extracurricular activities, students should actually pursue those that are of interest to them. After all, this is for their holistic development. It is not so much about a cookie cutter thing that if you check these boxes, we are never looking for checking the boxes. But of course, through the extracurricular activities, students may pick up certain skill sets, certain attributes. For example, leadership qualities, relevant aptitude. And that may actually be helpful depending on, again, which degree programs you're applying to. And so this may enhance one's application. And if a student is wanted to be considered for scholarship, then like leadership qualities, all these will come into play. So I would say that rather than, having a fixed list about extracurricular activities that you should do this so that you have a better chance, I think it's better that we actually focus on what the students are good at, because at the end of the day, like what I mentioned right at the beginning, we are looking at an authentic reflection of who the student is. If the student is not interested in this and just do for the sake of doing, the student will not be able to thrive with that extracurricular activities. And maybe, John, if you like, maybe let me explain a little bit more about, just now I mentioned aptitude-based admission, the 5 short response question, so that I can answer your question in a more direct fashion about extracurricular activities. Now, the 5 short response question, each one of them, 4 or 5 sentences. We're not asking for essay. We are looking for students to write authentically about themselves. Now, the first question is asking about what kind of preparation that the students have done, prior to this course for the degree program they're applying to, the prior preparation. Now, it could be like, the student taking some online courses, the student may have done certain things that is related, so these are the kind of preparation that the student will take. Then the second question we ask about, we want to find out about the resilience of the student. Some students may be very strong in sports. They want resilience. How do they pick themselves up from failure? That is what we're looking at. The third thing, we want our students to be reflective. Ask themselves honestly, what is something that matters to them, and what are the concrete steps the students have taken towards their goal. This actually bring out quite a bit of different attributes. Then the fourth question, we ask them about their proudest achievement and how it exemplifies our NUS values. And finally, we ask about anything else they want to highlight. And that will give the student more opportunity to link up what they fill up with and to the questions. That it all depends on what programs their students are applying to. Like, for example, some students are in the entrepreneurship club. And maybe that our business school will find that this is a suitable attribute they're looking for. And for our holistic admissions, typically, they will be considered by the respective faculties. So different faculties, different programs, they look for different things. I think I hope that this actually gives an answer to what you're asking.
No, absolutely. It's very clear. And thank you again so much. And those aptitude questions, I think, are really helpful for students to see if they are a right fit for the university, right?
Correct.
It's really for them to dig deep and think deeply, because, NUS is a great university. And though they should think about why exactly, because, oftentimes students or sometimes parents may push a student to select it, maybe just simply on ranking. But we always encourage students to look deeper at how the teaching and learning is happening, what the student community looks like, what are the other opportunities that are available for the students there. So no, that was perfect. Thank you. And we always tell students, going through the application, before you even start writing the application, look at the questions first, because that helps you to think about, should I, right? And is this the right place?
Absolutely.
And so actually kind of related to that question, Professor Go, let's say if, we do have a student, let's say that, decides to go to NUS, but maybe interested in double majoring or maybe minoring in something. Or let's say, if they started after year one, they wanted to switch majors. Can you talk a little bit about that? Is that possible at NUS, and what would that look like?
Sure. Okay, I think this is a very good question, and I think this is an opportunity for me to actually explain our curriculum structure to our prospective students here. Now, the idea here is that our curriculum structure here is that we are actually drawing the best of both worlds for both the UK and the US system. We want to give our students a flexible, student-centric learning experience, and we provide multiple pathways regardless of the high school qualifications. So whether you are coming in with IB, A-levels, or Hong Kong DSE, the same multiple pathways are available for them. So that part, I think, is clear. Now, what kind of curriculum structure that we have? So let me dissect your question. Now, your question is a very big question, so let me explain to it bit by bit, okay? Now, the first thing is that typically our undergraduate degree programs, most of them takes 4 years for an honors degree. And a student will take a total of 40 courses over 4 years. And 40 courses over 4 years in general is like 10 courses per year on average. And these 40 courses is split into 3 different baskets. The first basket, common curriculum. Now, the common curriculum is a broad-based intellectual foundation, and our common curriculum, which is typically 10 to 13 courses, is tailor-made for the faculty that the students are in. The College of Design and Engineering has one set of common curriculum that's suitable for design engineering. College of Humanities and Sciences have another set that's for humanities and sciences. Business school has their own, School of Computing has their own. So this is a common curriculum. 10 to 13 courses, about 1/3 or slightly less than 1/3, 1/4 to 1/3. That is one part. Second part, major requirements. I think students coming to the university, they want to do that major. So major requirements, 15 to 20 courses. And but bear in mind that the total is 40 courses. Then 15 to 20 courses here. Doesn't seem a lot, It's less than half. So what is happening here? If you do the math, the common curriculum plus the major requirements. Now, you don't need to be a mathematician to know that they don't add up to 40 courses. So there is a balance. That balance is actually by design. And that balance is what we call unrestricted electives, 10 to 12 courses. And that we purposely make sure that there is a space for 10 to 12 courses. Because, like I said, we want to take the best of both worlds. Let's say a student wanted to go very deep in a discipline. The student wants to be a mathematician, let's say. Then you realize that 15 courses for major requirements in mathematics, that's not enough. Then you can use your entire unrestricted elective space of the balance of 12 courses. You throw it inside, you have a total of 27 courses for a mathematics major. That can give you be a deep specialist in mathematics. So this is moving very close to the UK system. Then some students want to go broad. They want to, haven't decided what they want to do. They want to explore, like US system facilitate this broad kind of concept. You can take your unrestricted electives to do a second major, to do a minor. Now, what are the requirements for a second major and a minor? Primary major, 15 to 20 courses, depending on the major. Some are 15, some are 20, some are in between. Second major, across the board, 10 courses. So it's lower intensity. Then minor, 5 courses. So you see, half the intensity. So this is basically the setup. Now, I know that your question is still multi-layer. I'll continue to explain, but maybe John, do you have anything that you want to ask first before I explain the rest of the answer?
No, that's actually quite clear. It's good to really hear about, I think, and I really I like the way that you frame how it's taking the best of the kind of focused UK approach and also the flexible US approach and how NUS applies for it kind of caters the opportunity for both.
Okay, so maybe let me just continue a little bit more here. Yes. Suppose that we have, let me give you an example. I think this will help you to understand better about the flexibility. Now, for example, we have a student that is in the School of Computing, majoring in artificial intelligence. That is one of the new majors that we roll out this year. Very hot area. Major requirements, okay, faculty, common curriculum, 10 courses. Major requirements, 20 courses. The student has a balance of 10 courses of unrestricted electives. Now, the student wants to go deep in computing, want to go deep in AI. Take the 10 courses, do entirely AI and computing, the student will graduate with a single major. Then, how about if the student wants to do a second major? They can take the unrestricted electives and try to do a second major. After all, AI actually builds its foundation on big data. And building the foundation on big data, then you need to have knowledge about data analytics. We do have a second major in data analytics offered by the Faculty of Science, a different faculty. And being a comprehensive university, the student can go to the Faculty of Science and do a second major in data analytics. Then the student will graduate with one major and a second major. This is what we call a double major combination. But then these students, after he has come in, he has explored, and he realized that yes, data analytics is important, but there are so many other interesting things they want to do. He wants some knowledge of data analytics. He can instead go for a minor in data analytics with 5 courses. That carves out 5 courses for the student to do something else. And after learning about AI, learning about data analytics, the student got himself into an entrepreneur mindset. He wants to found his own company. Then the student can actually go to business school and do a minor in entrepreneurship, 5 courses. So the student will graduate with 1 major and 2 minors. And in terms of the double degree, now what's the difference between double degree and double major? Now, double major is actually still 1 degree, Bachelor of Computing for AI, and then with this second major or minor or 2 minors. Or if the student wants to do a double degree, let's say, then it's actually Bachelor of Computing, Bachelor of Mathematics, that is double degree. Now, typically, double degree will not require 8 years because 1 degree 4 years, 2 degree 8 years. It's not that complicated because you need to satisfy 2 sets of primary major requirements. So typically, if you plan properly, all our students with double degree will finish within 5 years. Some could even do 4 to 5 years, depending on which combination you are looking at.
Truly a lot of different possibilities and, mixtures for students to really explore the university. That's very cool. And just, even as you were explaining, I was like, oh, there's like many puzzle pieces of different ways that you can actually really explore, especially, I feel like in the modern 21st century world of work, there really is so much that's out there for students to kind of explore. So
maybe if you wish, maybe let me just explain a little bit more about changing major. I think I have not answered that question yet.
Sure. Yeah,
so let me just mention a little bit more here. Now, the second major, I think I've already hinted that the second major or the minor that you can upgrade, downgrade, it's up to the student. We give students flexibility. And when to apply for the second major and when to apply for minor. Now, there are 2 entry points for a second major and minor. That is at the point of application, right at the beginning, I did mention about having 8 choices of multidisciplinary degree programs. Some common, popular, major, minor, double major combinations, we list it there. We let students choose it. But those are not everything. Students can do a DIY, figure out what they want, and they can apply for all these after they've come in, if they have not decided, within the first 5 semesters. And changing major, this is something that I want to mention. Now, we have actually 4 common admission programs. Humanities and Sciences, Engineering, Business Administration, and Computer Science. Each one of them, there are majors under it. Humanities and Sciences, there's a long list of majors, in Arts and Social Sciences and in Science. All these are there. Now, when the student apply, they apply to that common admission program. Within that common admission program, we let students indicate their preferred major. Like, let's say a student is, the preferred major is psychology, for example. The student can indicate it. And this is our commitment to the student. But after the student has come into the university and decided that maybe I want to do life sciences instead of psychology, students are allowed to go to the computer system and just change the major. No further selection. We give students this full flexibility within the common admission programs. However, there are others that is not within the common admission framework. Like, let's say you got in for humanities and sciences, and then you want to change major to something under computer science. That one doesn't happen very often because that is what we call a transfer application. And that requires complete evaluation by the new program.
That's great. Very, very, very clear. And in talking about all of these different options, I also wanted to just ask you if you can share a little bit about the newest college of NUS, the new college, and if you could just share a little bit about what that program, what that college is like, and what opportunity that affords to the students, and which student maybe would be the best fit for the new college.
Sure. So this new college, as the name has been finalized, and is called NUS College. So this is an honors college of the university. Now, of course, all our degree programs are honors degree program. Now, the concept about honors college is like what you have in the US university, that students in their honors college will do something beyond their normal curriculum that will further enhance their learning. So this NUS college essentially works on this framework. It enhances the chosen major. Now, there are more than 60 different majors that the NUS college student can take, which is taken with NUS. So it's an add-on. So the student will have their home faculty, will have their majors that I spoke about just now. And on top of it, the student will actually take the NUS college curriculum, which comprises 14 courses. Now, you asked about the suitability. Which are the students that should go for NUS college? Now, I would say that if a student aspires for a broad-based interdisciplinary curriculum, something towards the flavor of a liberal arts education in the liberal arts college in the US, that is something that students should consider. At NUS college, they have small class teaching. Seminar style. It's a small class. It's not like a huge lecture theater with 300 students. It's a small class teaching, and they actually incorporates residential experience together with global exposure. Now, the major requirements of those students remains the same. If the student is a physics major, then the student still has to do the 15 courses for physics. No change. The NUS college curriculum, now, you may ask, then where do you get the curriculum space to do the 14 courses of the NUS college? Now, what happened here is that, remember that just now we have a common curriculum of 10 to 13 courses. Then there is an unrestricted elective space of 10 to 12 courses. NUS college will replace part of the home faculty's common curriculum, because the common curriculum is about, like let's say data literacy, digital literacy, or certain aspect that is related to integrated science. Now, NUS college has certain curriculum that can replace it. Some of the unrestricted elective space can also be replaced. But the way that we work out the so-called magic is that we make sure that students still have possibility of pursuing a second major and minor as well. And what's so unique about this NUS college curriculum? Now, let me highlight one particular aspect, which I think is really something that I think some students find it that it really makes a difference to their learning. We have a course that is called Impact Experience Project. It is a team-based project on the topic of impact to society. And students will work together as a group over an extended period of time, either locally or regionally. So sometimes our students will go to like other countries, neighboring countries like Indonesia, Thailand, Philippines, look at the problem, solve it together with the local people, and then to see how their input and how the work can actually impact the lives of these students. I think this is one of those courses that NUS College have that is actually a unique learning experience. It has gone beyond, liberal arts education, is a liberal arts kind of broad base, but we also focus on impact to society. And so after saying all this, how can students apply to NUS College? Now, do you need to make another application? Now, let me explain here is that students only make one application to NUS. Students will still indicate their 8 choices for their single degree program. But on the application form, there's a checkbox about would you like to be considered for NUS College. If the student is interested, they will tick the checkbox, and then the application form will bring them to another page for NUS College to fill up some additional questions about, and then they will be considered concurrently by the degree programs and NUS College concurrently. And for NUS College, they were based on what the student has input, based on the academic results, they will shortlist the student, and then they will interview the student. And for overseas students, they will interview through online platform.
That's great. And for the NUS college, Professor, may I ask, for the interview, what type of questions or what category of questions would the interview be, related to, if I can ask?
Okay, this one, there are certain rubrics they look out for. They look out for certain attributes about the suitability of NUS college. And so typically it's not so much about what question to ask. They look out for the attributes that is suitable for the curriculum, the community of NUS college. So typically this is what they will do. And this will be, the interviewers could be professors, staff, or sometimes we even engage alumni of NUS college to help out with this selecting the students.
Great. It sounds like a great college, and again, that impact project is I think so important and meaningful, because I think especially for young people, they want to know why, right? Like so I'm getting this great degree, but why? What can I do? How can my education impact the world around me? So with that kind of being said, it ties into my next question, which is because especially for our families in China, they're thinking of they're becoming wiser and wiser. Many families are thinking about when their children are going to university about what industries that are hiring international graduates, for example, in Singapore. Can you talk a little bit about that? And maybe if you can share a little bit about maybe what industries are hiring in Singapore, what skills, what certificates, any direction or insight you can share with our families about that question.
Sure. I think this is something that parents are very concerned about, and including parents from China, they're very concerned about. And in terms of employment, our international graduates are actually hired in a wide range of employment sectors. And notably, like financial and insurance, information and communications, education and research, electronic products, and typically they are hired in large organizations, like including MNCs. And then what kind of jobs do our international graduates are hired for? Like, for example, software developer, software engineer, research officer, financial analyst, or management executive. Now, you mentioned about what skills and what certifications makes applicants stand out. Now, this is something that I think there are certain skill sets that we always want to make sure that students acquire. And after all, the university journey is more than just academic knowledge. We want practical know-how. So practical skills that our students obtain from internships actually help our international students to be hired. Almost all our degree programs have internships incorporated. It could be compulsory internship, it could be optional internship, but students are very forthcoming about doing internship. They get very good use of their time. Okay, some internships are taken during term time, but some students make good use of their summer holidays to go for internship. And most of our international students have at least one internship throughout their undergraduate studies. And there's this internship conversion rate that is, and very often there's a good percentage of our international students, they actually receive job offer through their internship. After their internship, they impress the company eventually gave them an offer after they've graduated.
That's great. A little bit of a follow-up, just because I know, it's great. The internships are fantastic. I also can I also ask a little bit about exchange programs like the NUS the overseas college program or career fairs? Are those also available for international students? And can share a little bit about how that looks like at NUS?
Oh, certainly. Okay, when we take in a student, they are all NUS students. International students are also definitely will be able to have access to career fairs, NUS overseas colleges, student exchange. No problem. Maybe let me just explain a little bit about student exchange program and NUS overseas colleges, since I have not touched on this. Now, NUS actually has partnership with more than 350 universities over 40 countries. And students can actually spend one semester or even 1 year in the partner university, taking classes in the partner university. Now, two things that come in mind is that if you go for this exchange, does it mean that the students' graduation will be delayed? Not so. Because when the students actually, before they go for exchange, we have an academic advisor. They will sit down with the student, work through with the students about the courses they will take at the partner universities, and all these can be mapped back into the graduation requirements of the student. Then the second thing is that, how about the fees, the tuition fees? You know that some of the overseas universities, the tuition fees are very, very expensive. And in fact, if you go under the student exchange program mechanism, then the student will only need to pay NUS tuition fees, which is actually very competitive and with subsidies from the Singapore government as well. So this is one aspect, but some students find that going for 1 year, 1 semester is too long. You can always use your summer and winter vacation to go for a summer and winter program. Just take one course in a partner university. You know, this global exposure actually help to facilitate, employment outcomes as well. The other one, the NUS overseas colleges. Now, that is one of those uniquely NUS program that this started more than 20 years ago. And through that 20 years, more than 4,000 students have gone through this. And through the process, these are for students who are interested to be an entrepreneur. Through the process, more than 1,000 companies have been founded. And that is really a very sizable number. And what happens is that if the students go for NUS overseas colleges, then the students will work in a startup as an intern when the student is there 1 semester or even 1 year. And at night, they'll take some classes on entrepreneurship. And this actually sparked their interest in founding their own companies. And we have NUS overseas colleges in more than 25 places all over the world, ranging from Silicon Valley, New York, Toronto, China, and Southeast Asia. And so this is another aspect. So this is, again, another things that actually students find that is beneficial for them to land their first jobs or things like that, because all these are really practical experience that translate what they learn in the classroom into the real world. Now, we have a Center for Future Ready Graduates because we take our students' employment very seriously. We have a Center for Future Ready Graduates that actually engages our students not just in the final year, but in the first year. We organize career fairs, we host career advisories and workshops, and we facilitate internship. And this Center for Future Ready Graduates also certainly serves international students as well. So in short, all these are actually attributes, like internship. Now, of course, students can find internship on their own as well. No problem. Internship, study abroad programs, NUS, overseas colleges, career events, career fairs, career advisory, even the residential experience. The participation in our more than 200 student clubs and society, all these help to develop students holistically. Now, the way that I think about at the NUS education is a holistic experience of solid academic knowledge, transferable skill sets that you learn in the classroom and move it outside the classroom, and the non-academic learning opportunities I've highlighted. All these add together collectively will translate into successful employment outcomes.
That's incredible. What a wide range of different things that students can do. And then I did not know about the startup of the companies. Again, I'm learning new and great things just from this conversation. And incredible for the overseas colleges. It's incredible. In fact, I just wanted to share maybe with our YCYW students and families. We had a graduated about 2019. She was Taiwanese, but she went to NUS. And then she actually did one of the exchange programs. She went to Yale for, I believe, 6 months, or it could have been a year. Had a great time. And then there she came back and finished, of course, at NUS. But when she was at Yale, she decided she wanted to go to graduate school there. She found the research and the things that she wanted to continue in the US. And now she's there for graduate school. So it is all because of, NUS and giving her that opportunity to go and explore and, to be part of that community for her to find her next step. So on behalf of just her, I wanted to thank you for that.
You're most welcome. I'm so glad to hear that your students have benefited from our
Absolutely.
system.
And we're always very proud of just kind of, I think our tradition of many of our YCIS students going to NUS and finding their different ways of success. I have one last question, Professor, and thank you so much for just your time and just your thorough explanation and insightful understanding of NUS. And the last question, of course, has to do with scholarships. The cost of university, of course, is something our parents consider. So just wondering, what unique scholarships does international students have, an opportunity to receive from NUS? And then can you also talk a little bit about the MOU tuition grants and things such as that? What are all the financing options maybe for our families that are thinking about studying at NUS or maybe even in Singapore?
Sure. Okay, I think these are very good questions. And firstly, about scholarships for international students. There are several possible scholarships for international students that NUS offers. One is the ASEAN Undergraduate Scholarship, and these are for ASEAN nationalities in any degree program. There is a Science and Technology Undergraduate Scholarship for Asian nationalities in the STEM discipline, namely one of the science, engineering, or computing degree programs. NUS College has its own scholarship, the NUS College International Scholarship for any nationality in NUS College. Now, all these scholarships, it's a full scholarship. So the coverage includes tuition fees, living allowance, and accommodation allowance. Now, students need not fill up a separate application form for scholarship consideration. You just need to fill up your admission application form. We will look through and then we'll shortlist suitable students and we call students out for interview. And of course, students who are overseas, we will conduct the interviews through Zoom platform so that students will not be missed out just because they are not able to fly all the way to Singapore for the scholarship interview. And what kind of service obligations? And just now you asked about the MOE tuition grants. Now, maybe let me just digress a little bit and let me first explain about the MOE tuition grants first, and then I'll come back and talk about the relationship with the scholarship. Now, the MOE tuition grant, MOE stands for Ministry of Education. Now, this is a substantial tuition fee subsidies offered by the government, the Ministry of Education, and this under the MOE tuition grant, then the students will actually get substantial tuition fee subsidies. Let me give you an example. So for example, if a full tuition fees for, let's say, computing is about 39,000, okay, on the current rate of Singapore dollars a year, and if the student is on the MOE tuition grant, then the international student will pay the subsidized tuition fee. You get about 50% discount. So it's about 19,000 Singapore dollars. If an ASEAN nationality, then the fees are slightly lower. You can find out the fees from our website. So it's a substantial tuition fee subsidies. And this is actually offered to international students on a competitive basis. I mean that there's a good percentage of our international students who are on MOE tuition grant. And because it's a substantial tuition fee subsidies, then there is a service obligations. Now, what is this service obligation? The service obligation is that the student has to work in Singapore or Singapore registered companies for at least 3 years after their graduation. Now, the question to ask is that, must it be a certain specific company? No, we let students choose whatever company that the student would like to work in. As long as it's a Singapore registered company, then that will fulfill the MOE tuition grant. So in fact, a very good percentage of our international students are supported by the MOE tuition grant. Now, coming back to the scholarship, what is the relationship with the scholarships? Now, because the scholarship provides coverage for tuition fees, and the scholarship will provide the coverage for the subsidized tuition fees. So naturally, the student has to take the MOE tuition grant. So students in the ASEAN Undergraduate Scholarship, students in the NUS College International Scholarship, after taking the MOE tuition grant, they have to work in Singapore or Singapore registered company for 3 years after graduation. How about the Science and Technology undergraduate scholarship? Now, the Science and Technology undergraduate scholarship, some of the benefits are slightly better. And what happens is that the student has a 6-year bond with a Singapore registered company. So they have to work in Singapore for 6 years. And so that is the setup about scholarship and MOE tuition grant.
And that's great. And, I know from my former students that have gone through the MOE tuition grant, they also say, well, it's also a great way for me to help me find a job in Singapore because I have, this grant and I know I'm going to be able to find work. I think so. It really is very helpful. And I think, especially, I myself, I'm a parent also. And I think as parents, and also I often say to other parents, for our children, if we just help them get their first job, get their feet into, then that's it. They go forward and, and they conquer the world. And I think, the tuition grants and what NUS does, and especially what Singapore does, really just help students start. And once they start, they will find their way. And it's incredible. It's incredible. So Professor Goh, on behalf of all of our students and families, I want to just say thank you so much for taking the time today to really share your passion. Your passion comes across so much for NUS and all of its amazing opportunities. And, I would want to say that the students and your colleagues are very lucky to have you as a dean, to have a leader at the institution, because I think, to see that passion, and I'm sure your team and your students must, just realize how blessed and lucky they are to be working at that and to be at that institution. And we're just very, again, thankful that you have taken your time today to speak to us. And we hope that if you ever do come to China and any of those places where our schools are located, please come and stop by. We'll offer you some nice soup dumplings and a good cup of coffee. And thank you so much again. And just have a wonderful, wonderful day.
Thank you, John, for the invitation and your kind words. It's a great pleasure for me to be able to speak to the students of YCYW. And may I take this opportunity to wish all the students of YCYW all the very best for their university pursuit. Thank you.
Welcome back, everybody. And I, hope you enjoyed that conversation with Professor Goh.
欢迎回来。
Now, we have many questions in the chat, and some of them we answered in the chat already, but there's some that we want to answer live. So I'm going to answer some questions about the application process to NUS.
OK， 就是刚才在这个访谈的过程当中，那么会在 chat 就是聊天框有一些问题，那么就是可能我们已经在聊天框里面做了解答。那其他的一些问题的话，我们想现在就是结束之后跟大家一起来帮助大家解答。
And there's a lot of questions, so parents and students that are here, if you want to ask more questions, put it in the chat as we explain.
对，如果大家还有什么问题的话，可以继续在留言框写下自己的问题。
And we'll try to answer as many questions as possible, and those that we cannot, we will share that with Professor Goh and his team if we can't answer them.
那么我们会为大家去解答，就是尽可能多的去回答大家的问题。如果那么有问题，后续我们可以去问 Professor Goh。
那Coco， 我先开始吧，好不好？那我先问我的问题。So we have some questions about applying to NUS. How do you apply to NUS? That's a 很简单的问题。你怎么申请呢 ？Just go to the website， 他们所有的 information 在那边。
Yeah.
然后呢，第二个问题 is there any difference between admissions process for Singaporeans and international students, especially graduating from YCYW?
So 第二个问题，看一下。
对，问题是说，那个我们就是说，Singapore nationals 和 international students from YCYW 有没有什么不一样的？
就是 if they are Singapore students, they study outside of Singapore, what's the difference between them and the international students in China? 他们就是如果 if they are Singaporean, wherever they study, they will be counted as their local students, so they will enjoy a local scholarship. 然后从申请上的话，they will look at what the specific program，就是你学的是什么课程，比如说 A level, AP or IB，然后去 decide。然后你会怎么样去评估你？
对，and then maybe 可能我 I'm gonna use English 什么you know yeah 对吧？对，我们都穿了，对吧？所以so 那个很好的问题 ，like as Coco was saying before, one the citizenship 的问题，the citizenship question is more about fees, is not about quotas. I see a lot of questions here about quotas. So parents and students don't think about quotas. If you are a strong student, the school will accept you, right? Because they tells you what their requirements are. It's more about fees. So it's more about, what are the fees that you're able to pay, and that makes sense for your family.
对，他就像刚才说，他主要就是大家不用担心你是属于国际生还是说 local，主要还是如果就是主要还是它这个主要是跟你们的学费是相关的。
Yeah, so again, whether you are an excuse me, IB student for YC schools, A-level student for YW schools, if you are a strong academic student, no matter what your national status is, NUS will want to admit you. But as Coco said before, it depends on the scholarships that would be willing to offer you, right? So as Professor Gold said before, if you're international student, then you would qualify for that kind of, working within Singapore scholarship. And for if you're a Singaporean, it's different because your fees are different.
对，就是所以大家不用担心，如果你只要学术上足够的优秀的话，那么就是新加坡国立大学他们都会抛来橄榄枝的。
Coco，你那边有什么那个问题？
Yeah, I got a question from Denver, a student or a parent, I'm not sure. 就是有一个家长学生问到 ，Is NUS college more difficult to apply than others？ 就是 NUS 因为 Mr. Professor Go mentioned the NUS College， 那是他们的一个新的 college。那这个学校这个 college 会不会比其他的college 要更难申请呢？答案 yes it is because it's an honors college and only enrolls 7% of 就是每年只招收他的就是学生当中只有6%到7%的学生就是 undergraduate cohort 是被录取的。然后他会评估的学生呢不仅仅是看学生的一个 academic 就是学术方面他是不是足够的优秀，他也会看他们的比如说有没有 research ability，strong research abilities， 就是研究做一些科研的能力，然后再就是这种 cross cultural communication skills， 就是有跨文化沟通能力强不强，然后他的一些还有就是有没有这种ability solve practical problems， 能不能解决一些用他们所学的知识来解决生活或者是遇到的一些实际的一些问题，所以他们会更加的评估的话的 standards 就是要标准会更高一些。
对 and then I have another question here that was asking about admission quotas and cutoff scores for IB. So 当然 for NUS will give you a score you should aim for. They don't have a cutoff score, but if you don't go for the score that you aim for, which they say you should try to achieve, the likelihood of you being accepted will be very low， 对不对？所以他会给你一个目标，然后你拿不到这个目标的话呢，平常我们的 CUGO 会跟你说 ，OK， 这个可能是比较你算你的 reach school， 对不对？因为你没有达到他的理想的这个要求，所以 and sometimes the score that they give you 那个分数给你 that's the basic, right? They want to see more. So exactly if you're going to be applying to the honors college 要申请那个 honors college 的话，那可能他的要求会更多一点，所以 yeah, that's the best way to answer that.
Yeah.
还有吗 anything else you want to add, Coco?
I got another question, but it's similar to yours.
Yeah.
What academic scores requires and English level.
好，那 OK， 那刚才我们讲 So the NUS to English level depend even the NUS. So NUS. Okay, maybe I realize I cannot switch between both languages. I'll do English and you got the Chinese, and you can do Chinese. So in NUS you do have there is a mother tongue requirement. So in that mother tongue requirement, you need to have one language that's the first language that you're indicating. So if it's English, it will have very clearly what your first mother tongue English requirements are in the IB or in the A level. So that's the first thing I think you should go look at what the mother tongue requirement and what you consider that as your mother tongue.
就是在新加坡国立大学，它会有一个母语的一个语言的要求，然后大家就可以去官网上可以看到它的母语的一个分数要求大概具体是多少。那如果是英语是你们的母语的话，那可以看一下 IB， 对于 IB 它会有一个什么样的要求，或者说对于 A level 的话是一个分数是一个什么样的要求。
I have another. 你还有别的问题吗？你还有
没有了。
那我来 I have another question. Another question is for law courses intake, do you need to have high score in Chinese? So if you look at the requirement, it doesn't have it will tell you very clearly. So, sorry, excuse me. So it doesn't have a necessarily a Chinese intake. Of course, it depends on what law course you're taking, but there's no Chinese high level intake. It has other qualifications that you need, but it's listed very clearly on the NUS website.
所以就是对学习法律的同学，那么他并没有说对中文有一个非常就是有一个非常就是前置课程的一个语言的这个方面的一个要求。
So then we have another question that says about predicted score. So as Professor Go has shared before, so at NUS, they're not asking you for predicted scores. You apply in July with your actual IB results. So it's very clear from your results, what you've done. Of course, we submit your transcript as well. So no need for predicted scores. You just apply with your IB results. And then NUS will be able to, if you're accepted, they'll process your student visa very, very quickly if you're not a Singaporean.
对，就 Professor Go 在刚才的大家看到就是视频里面他有提到，就是他们的 offer 他们是发 firm offer， 他们不发 conditional offer， 所以就是他不看预估分，他就是依据你们大考最后的成绩来决定是否要录取学生。
Great, Coco. Any more questions on your end? Parents, if you have any more questions, please. 你来，不好意思。没有了。
我这边没有。
还有别的问题吗，家长？ Any other questions? Well, Coco, it looks like Professor Gold did a great job.
Yeah.
Yes, so if no other questions, thank you for joining us this evening. When we come back from the new year, we're going to focus on Europe. So there'll be new webinars about really great opportunities about universities in Europe, the career opportunities, university opportunities, all the different things that are there.
非常感谢大家今天晚上来收看我们的 CUGO， 来参加我们 CUGO 的线上讲座。那么就是我们的Christmas holiday 回来之后，应该是 Christmas holiday 对吗？OK， 回来之后我们将会 focus 在我们会去主要是欧洲的一些大学的他们的申请以及application 方面的一些介绍。
So great. So we hope everyone have a wonderful, wonderful holiday. If you have more questions about NUS or anything else, we will send you the recording, and also we'll send you Professor Go's email. You can always contact him, and also you can reach out to your CEG at school.
我们在结束之后会给大家发送这次的这个 CUGO 的 webinar 的这个的 recording， 然后如果大家后续有任何的问题，可以联系我们，然后或者是你们所在校区的升学指导老师，然后提前祝大家圣诞快乐
Merry Christmas, bye bye, bye bye.